Acherim Oimrim. This is a quote from the Braisa that we learned earlier on the Avav Amar Aleph.
Just a Acherim question. What does it mean Acherim?
Acherim is Rab Meir. Okay, it's a whole story about it, why he was called Acherim, not for now, but Acherim is Rab Meir, as we'll see actually in the end of the Yamad.
Which Rab Meir?
Daftes Amar Aleph. Rab Meir, there's one Rab Meir. Stam Mishnah Rab Meir. So Acherim says, Askupa, when you have a threshold, Mishameshes Shtei Reshuyos. A threshold could be one of two Reshuyos. Bisman Shah Pesach Pesuach, if the door is open, Kilifnim. Then it's going to have a halacha like a Reshus HaYachid, like the inside. Pesach Nol, if the door is closed, Kilachutz. Then it's going to have a halacha like the outside, like the Reshus HaRabim. That's the statement of Acherim, till here. So the Gemara now is going to question, what exactly are we talking about? What kind of a threshold is this? Or more loosely, is not only a threshold, we're talking about some kind of an entranceway. There's an entranceway into, as we'll see in the Gemara, there's two options here. There'll be two explanations. It could either be an entranceway going into a mavoi. A mavoi, as we learned already earlier, is a dead-end street which is enclosed from three sides and is open on the fourth side. And in order for this mavoi to be allowed to carry in this mavoi, minat Torah you're allowed to carry there. It's a Reshus HaYachid. As long as it's enclosed from all three sides, it's a Reshus HaYachid. But because it's open to the third side, to the street, so people confuse it with a Reshus HaRabim, you're not allowed to carry there unless there's one of the two. Either a lechi, which is the side beam, to make a heker for people to see that it's separate, or a kaira, cross beam on the top. So over here, in the beginning, the Gemara is going to assume that we're talking about an entranceway, a threshold, coming from the mavoi into the street, into the Reshus HaRabim. So this entranceway, between the mavoi and the Reshus HaRabim, what's the story with this entranceway? Let's see. Are we going to say that even if there's no lechi here for this entranceway, what does the Gemara mean when there's no lechi for this entranceway? This entranceway, let's say, how wide is this entranceway? Let's say the entranceway is about 2 feet wide, 3 feet wide. Where is the lechi placed? On the inside part of the entranceway. That's where the lechi is placed. What's with the outside part of the entranceway? Okay, you have the pictures of it there now, but I can't do the picture over here now. So you're going to have to try to understand it or whatever.
So you mean the depth of the doorway?
Yeah, the depth of the doorway. It's yeah. So the lechi is placed on the inside part of that entranceway. What's with the outside part of the entranceway? Are you allowed to carry on the outside part of the entranceway that there's no lechi for that part? The lechi is only on the inside part. So the Gemara says you can't. In an entranceway to the mavoi, you're going to have a second lechi to be allowed to carry in that space of the actual entranceway. Since the lechi you're using is only at the inside part of the entranceway, so that lechi works to be allowed to carry in the street of the mavoi, in the dead-end street. But as far as the entranceway itself is concerned, the space of the entranceway itself does not have a lechi to allow you to carry there. You're going to need a second lechi, another sign to be allowed to carry there. If you want to argue and say, the lespe dalet al dalet, we're talking about an entranceway that's less than 4 by 4 tvachim. It's a very, very narrow, it's a very small entranceway. So because it has no dalet al dalet, so we already have sort of established from before, any space that's less than dalet al dalet does not assume its own existence of its own domain. Just like when it comes to a Reshus HaYachid, when it comes to a Carmelis, any space that's less than dalet al dalet does not assume its own Reshus. So it becomes batal. So maybe over here, if I have a lechi in this entranceway, even though it's on the inside part of the entranceway, if the entranceway itself is not dalet al dalet, maybe it does not require a second lechi to be allowed to carry within this entranceway because it's such a small space. It's less than dalet al dalet.
You say the lechi is an edge, a ledge or something?
A lechi is a side beam. A side beam, like by a native, a side beam.
Straight up.
Post. Okay.
Post.
So the Gemara says, but this is not the case. Avcham Bar Guria said, Omar Rav, in the name of Rav, Toicha Pesach, within an entranceway, Afa Pishem by Dalet al Dalet, even if it's a very small entranceway, and it does not have the space of Dalet al Dalet, Tzorech Lechi Acher La'atiroi. If your lechi is on the inside part of the entranceway, it's not going to be matter to carry on the outside part of the entranceway that does not have that lechi. Even if it's a small space, less than dalet al dalet, you still need a second lechi to be allowed to carry in that area. So what did it? So our question is, what was Acherim saying that this entranceway? It depends if the door is open. It depends if the door is closed. Why does it make a difference if the door is open or closed? Is the lechi effective for that area or not? If the lechi is not effective for that area because it's further in, so then what difference does it make if the door is open or closed? If the lechi is effective, so then again, who cares if the door is open or closed? That's the question here. So the Gemara answers, Omar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. So we're going to have two pshatim here. One pshat is going to follow the assumption that we have till now, that we're talking about an entranceway to a mavoi. The second shot of the Gemara is going to say that no, we're talking about an entranceway to a house. So the first shot, Omer Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Hocha be'iskupas mavoi askina. Yes, in fact, we are talking about an entranceway to a mavoi. And the case over here is when that entranceway does not have a side beam. So again, like I said before, there's two options to be mater carrying in a mavoi when you have the third. You have it surrounded from three sides, and the fourth side is open. You could either have a lechi, a side beam, a post, or you could have a kaira. You could have a cross beam going over on the top. So the first point of Yehuda Amar Rav says, Hacha baskupas mavai askinon and chetzioi mekura v'chetzei she'eina mekura. There's a cross beam going over this entranceway, but that cross beam is not covering the entire entranceway. Partially covered by this cross beam, and partially not covered by this crossbeam. Okay? Now, what's the reason why the Gemara says that it's only partially covered by this crossbeam? Because the assumption of the Gemara is that a typical entranceway going into a mavoi is 4 by 4 tvachim wide, at least 4 by 4 tvachim wide. So if it's 4 by 4 tvachim wide, if in fact the crossbeam above this entranceway covered the entire entranceway, that means that you have a roof over this entranceway, which is 4 by 4 tvachim wide. Once you have a roof that's 4 by 4 tvachim wide, then you're allowed to carry in this entire entranceway without a problem. And the reason is, we had already this idea mentioned before on Davov, that there's a concept called Pi Tikra Yared V'Saisim. If you're under a roof, so then we consider it as if the roof is enclosing you in that area. So if this entranceway would be fully covered by a crossbeam, which is as wide as the crossway, as the entranceway itself, you'd be allowed to carry it there without a problem. So therefore, Rav says, we're talking about an entranceway which is assumably, typically 4 by 4 tvachim wide, but only part of it is covered by a crossbeam. So the crossbeam is less than 4 by 4 tvachim wide. And there, if it's a narrower crossbeam, you don't apply the concept of Pi Tikra Yared V'Saisim. To say that when you're under a roof, you're as if you're enclosed in that area, is only if the roof is at least 4 by 4 tvachim wide. But because it's not, so that rule doesn't apply. So now, when you're below, when you're standing in the entranceway, below that area of the entranceway that has the crossbeam above you, are you allowed to carry there? Is that part of the Rishus HaYachid? So over here, this is what Acherim said. Regarding this, Acherim said that the kiruyoi klape pneim, the area of the entranceway which has the crossbeam above it, is that part of the entranceway that's closer to the inside of the mavoi. Pesach pasuach. If the door is open, then kilifnim. I treat that area like the inside of the mavoi, and you're allowed to carry. Pesach no. If the door is closed, kilachutz. Even though you're under a crossbeam, but because the door is closed, that area is not connected to the rest of the mavoi, and you're not allowed to carry there. So this is the case, according to Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, that Acherim we're talking about. There's a crossbeam over your head, but because that crossbeam over your head is less than 4 by 4 tvachim, so that alone does not suffice. It's going to have to be in combination with the fact that the door is open to the mavoi, so then you become part of the mavoi. Then you're allowed to carry there. But if the door is closed, so then just the fact that you have that crossbeam over your head is not going to be good enough, and you can't carry there. That's one shot. Vashi Yomar, Ravashi says a different shot. La'olam ba'askupas bayis askina. We could be speaking about the threshold, the entranceway into a house. Now, the reason why the Gemara till here why Rav did not want to say we're talking about an entranceway into a house, because typically the entranceway into a house, the threshold of a house, if there is any roof above it, usually the entire entranceway is covered by a mashkaif, by a roof above it. So if the entire entranceway is covered with the roof above it, not only part of it, the entire entranceway is covered with the roof above it, then you should be allowed to carry there. It should be part of the Rishus HaYachid. So therefore Rav Ashi is now going to say, no, we could say it's talking about an entranceway into a house, but this entranceway does not have the regular roof that fully covers this entranceway. It's not the typical covering over this entranceway. What kind of a roof does this entranceway have? V'kagain, and for example, what we're speaking about over here is Shekira b'shtei kairos. This entranceway has a roof that's split into two. There's two cross beams, sort of two parts of a roof that go over this entranceway. She'ein bezuar ba, ve'ein bezuar ba. And neither of these two cross beams, neither of these two coverings over the entranceway into this home have the size of 4 by 4 tvachim. Again, so again, you have, I hope you can visualize this in your mind, but if you have an entranceway that's, let's say, 10 by 10 tvachim wide, and you have two cross beams going above it, but each cross beam is not 4 by 4 tvachim wide. If each cross beam separately was 4 by 4 tvachim wide, then whatever is below it is enclosed. That's the rule of a roof that's 4 by 4 tvachim wide. You're below it, you're enclosed. Over here you have this roof that's split, and there's this gap in between the two parts of the roof, and each part of the roof is not 4 by 4 tvachim wide. Now, that's one part of the story. Now, what else? Another part to the story over here is again, she'ein bezuar ba ve'ein bezuar ba. Ve'ein bein zu lezu shloisha. Now, in between these two roofs that there is above this entranceway, there's a gap. There's a gap between these two roofs. But the gap between them is less than 3 tvachim. What's the rule when you have a gap less than 3 tvachim? There's a concept called lavud. Any gap less than 3 tvachim means that we consider it as if it's closed and as if it's connected. So why does that gap? So what the point we're saying over here is if the gap is less than 3 tvachim, so then why does it matter? We should consider it as if it's fully covered. But the thing is, v'deles ba'emtza, there is a doorway. There's a door that opens and closes between the two parts of the entranceway. The door is positioned right in between. So there's this entranceway, two parts to the roof, and there's a gap of 3 tvachim, of less than 3 tvachim in between, and that's exactly where the door is positioned. So now the point is, Pesach Pesuach, if the door is open, kilufnim, then the outside part of the entranceway becomes part of the inside part of the entranceway, because there's a din of lavud. As long as the door is open, there's no obstruction in between, so the two parts of the entranceway become one. There's nothing separating between them. The only thing that separates is a gap that's less than 3 tvachim. A gap that's less than 3 tvachim is lavud. So it's like one large roof over their head and you can carry there. But Pesach Noel, if there's a door that's closed between the two parts of the entranceway, so then you can't say lavud anymore. You can't say lavud only if there's a gap in between that's less than 3 tvachim. But if there's actually a door that closes and separates between the two parts, you can't say lavud anymore. So therefore, the outside part of the entranceway is separate, and you can't carry there. That is the pshat in this Gemara.
On the other side you can carry.
The what?
On the other side you can carry.
Yes, because it's behind the door on the inside.
And if it's one.
Let's go weiter. If you don't mind, we're going to go weiter. I'll answer the questions afterwards if it's okay. So those are the two pshatim in what Achedim said, b'negei to an askupa, where a door matters. Whether the door is open or the door is closed matters. Now, the last part of the Braisa that was quoted before on the Vav Amud Aleph. V'im haisa askupa gavoye yud uruchove dalet. If you have a threshold, an entranceway, that's lifted off the ground of the Rishus Harabim 10 tvachim, uruchove dalet, and it's also wide 4 by 4 tvachim. So the lashon of the Braisa before was Harezu Rishus La'atzma. This is a domain for itself. It's a reshus for itself, meaning you can't carry from there into the reshus harabim, and you can't carry from there into the reshus hayachid either. Now, the fact that you can't carry from there into the reshus harabim is simply understood. If this place is 10 tvachim high and 4 by 4 tvachim wide, it's practically a reshus hayachid. So how can you carry from there into the reshus harabim? The question, though, is why can't you carry from there into the reshus hayachid? This is a reshus hayachid. This entranceway is tall enough and wide enough to be a reshus hayachid. So why not be allowed to carry from there into the reshus hayachid? That's what the Gemara is addressing now. So the Gemara explains, the statement of this Braisa would be proof that Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi. To a statement Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi said. The Omer Rav Yitzchak bar Avdimi, Omer Hoyer Rab Meir. Rab Meir was accustomed to saying. Now we're connecting this to the statement of the Braisa, which was said in the name of Acherim, because Acherim is Rab Meir. So Omer Hoyer Rab Meir. Rab Meir would say, Kol Mokoim Shata Moitze Beis Reshuyos. Anytime you have two Reshuyos Vehein Reshus Achas, and there are two Reshuyos that are the same type of Reshus. In other words, you have a Reshus HaYachid within a Reshus HaYachid. Okay, you have a courtyard, a Reshus HaYachid that's surrounded by a fence of 10 tvachim high, and it's a Reshus HaYachid. Within that Reshus HaYachid, you have a second Reshus HaYachid, which means you have another platform which is 10 tvachim high and has the space of 4 tvachim, so it's a Reshus HaYachid within a Reshus HaYachid. Kagain Omud B'Reshus HaYachid. A platform in the Reshus HaYachid, Gavoya Yud V'Rochav Dalet. Tall 10 tvachim and wide 4 tvachim. Also, Lekatif Olav. A person that's using this courtyard may not position his packages by placing it onto this platform, by using this platform. And simply speaking, what he means is, you're not allowed, there's a Gzeira Midrabanan, you may not carry from the Reshus HaYachid, the courtyard, onto this platform, or from the platform onto the Reshus HaYachid. Even though they're both the Reshus HaYachid, and it's same Reshus, but it's two different spaces in the same Reshus HaYachid, you're not allowed to. Why not? If a person is going to do this in Reshus HaYachid, moving items from a platform to the courtyard in the Reshus HaYachid, he may come to do the same thing in the Reshus HaRabim itself. When he's walking in the Reshus HaRabim, he may think that, and if he sees a platform in the Reshus HaRabim, it's all the same Reshus, and I'm allowed to take something from the Reshus HaRabim and place it on this platform. When in fact, that platform with the Reshus HaRabim could be a Reshus HaYachid, if it's tall 10 tvachim and wide 4 tvachim. So in order not to confuse two Reshuyos within a Reshus HaYachid with a Reshus HaRabim that also has a platform in it, or some kind of an elevated area in it, I say that you're not allowed to do this even in a Reshus HaYachid. This is Rab Meir's opinion. So the Gemara is saying this is what Rab Meir meant when he was speaking about an entranceway that's tall 10 tvachim, wide 4 tvachim. You're not allowed to carry from there into a Reshus HaYachid. It's a Gzeira Midrabanan. Now, we don't paskin like this Rab Meir at all. You probably have never heard of this kind of Gzeira in your life. Anytime you have a Reshus HaYachid and there's a Reshus HaYachid within a Reshus HaYachid, there's no issue. You're allowed to carry from one Reshus HaYachid to another Reshus HaYachid as long as you have the issue of Eruv Chatzer is taken care of, because we do not paskin like this Rab Meir. Very simple.
So this, according to them, you couldn't put it on the table or in the backyard or something.
Correct. It would be an issue.
It's hard to understand why he would have such a shot, because the person is not carrying B'chlal Reshus HaRabim.
I understand what you're saying.
And all of a sudden,
Okay. Okay, we begin a Mishnah with a totally new subject, sort of a break of Hilchos Shabbos. If you were having a yearning to go back to Brachas, so the Tana provides it for you over here. You have Halachas Menegeh to davening. So it really seems like this has no place b'chlal in Masechta Shabbos, but as Rashi says, because the Mishnah later is going to discuss takonis midrabanan of what you're not allowed to do right before Shabbos, or how to prepare right before Shabbos, so it begins also with a takana regarding mincha. When it comes close to the time of mincha, what should you not do in order not to miss davening mincha? Loi yeshev adam lifnei hasaper. A person should not sit down in front of a barber to take a haircut, samach lemincha, before the time of davening mincha. Ad she yispal, until he actually davens, then he can go take a haircut. Lo yikanes adam lemerchatz. You should not enter into a bathhouse at the time, before the time of mincha, close to mincha. V'lo lebursiki, not into a tannery to do your work over there. V'loi lechol, not to sit down also to eat a meal. V'loi ledin, and not to sit down to a din Torah. That's lechatchila. You're not allowed to get involved in any of these things when it comes close to the time of davening mincha. But ve'im ischilu, if in any of these cases you already began your meal, you began your haircut, or whatever, the Gemara will soon explain what all of this means. Then, ein mafsikin. Once you began, you don't have to stop. You could continue and finish, and then you go daven mincha. Another halacha, mafsikin likreis kriyashma. However, when it comes for kriyashma, for that you do have to stop to say kriyashma. Kriyashma is minat Torah. So for that, there is no heter b'diyeved that I already began and I could continue. Over there, you do have to stop. But for ein mafsikin litfila, you do not have to interrupt what you're doing for davening once you began. The Gemara, ve'ein mafsikin litfila seems to be repeating what it already said before. Everything will be explained in the Gemara. So the first thing the Gemara is going to discuss over here is when it says samuch. What does samuch mean? Samuch lemincha. Which mincha are we talking about? As we learned already in Masechta Brachas, there are two minchas. There's mincha gedayla and mincha ketana. Mincha gedayla is when? A half hour after chatzais, which now would be about
1:35.
About 1:35. Even though the half hour is not precisely 30 minutes on the watch, it's Shah Zmanius, but it's more or less around a half hour after chatzais. That's the time when they will makir the carbon tomid bein arbayim. When's mincha ketana? 9.5 hours into the day. So when it says over here, samach lemincha, which mincha are we talking about? Hi, samach lemincha. When it says samach lemincha, when does that mean? Are we talking about mincha gedayla? So then the pshat of samach lemincha, as Rashi explains, would be a half hour before mincha. Half hour before, from chatzais, you're not allowed to do any of these things before you daven. Amai loy. Why not? You still have a lot of time of the day to go daven mincha. What are we afraid? He's going to take a haircut and he won't daven mincha if he takes a haircut at 12 o'clock. And shkia is not until 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock even. So what's the pshat in this? Or rather, what is logical to say samach lemincha means samach lemincha ketana? It's already 9. Mincha is 9.5 hours into the day. So at the beginning of that hour, a half hour before, you're not allowed to daven. If so, the Gemara asks, im is chilo, samach lemincha ketana. So the Gemara asks, im is chilo ein mafsikin? Are you going to say that in this case, when it comes to mincha ketana, much later in the day, much closer to shkia, does the din of the Mishnah that if he began his meal, he began his haircut, he does not have to interrupt? If so, shall we say, to have it to Yufta Rabbi Shua ben Levi, what it says in this Mishnah would be refuting a statement of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. The Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, Kivin shigi azman tfilas mincha. As soon as the time of mincha arrives, asala adam sheyitaim. A person, when the time of mincha ketana arrives, a person may not even taste anything, may not taste any food. Klum, asala adam sheyitaim klum. Before he davens mincha. And over here, once he began his meal, we're allowing him to continue. According to Rabbi Shua ben Levi, you're not allowed to taste anything once it comes to this time. So then, we have a problem now. It doesn't make sense that the Mishnah is talking about mincha gedayla. That's way too early in the day. On the other hand, if it's talking about mincha ketana, so then the other part of the Mishnah where it says that once you began, you don't have to interrupt, doesn't make sense either, because Rabbi Shua ben Levi says that once it comes to that time period of the day, you're not allowed to taste any food. You must have a mincha before you taste even anything. So the Gemara gives two answers to this. The first answer is Loi la'olam samach lamincha gedayla. We're going to go back to the first pshat. Our Mishnah is talking about mincha gedayla, which is a half hour after chatzais. And so then what's the issue of a person taking a haircut or any other things that the Mishnah talks about over here so early on in the day? And for the Gemara, we're not talking about a regular haircut, and we're not talking about a regular meal, as the Gemara will explain. But despite this ben el osha, we're talking about a unique kind of a haircut which takes a very long time. The haircut of ben el osha. What's this haircut of ben el osha? So Rashi says ben el osha was Rabbeinu HaKadish's son-in-law. And he was a very rich person, and he took a unique haircut. The haircut that he took, he was trying to copy the kind of haircut that they gave the Kohen Gadol. What was the haircut of the Kohen Gadol? So all Rashi says is the haircut of the Kohen Gadol is that the tip of one hair reached the base of the other hair. And that's how they designed the entire haircut. That's all Rashi says. Whatever that means today, it probably would theoretically be a bit easier to do that with a machine that you can get the exact size to see that it should be such a kind of haircut. But, but then, to give such a kind of haircut took a very long time. So this kind of a haircut, even if it's 12 o'clock noontime and you're going to take this kind of a haircut, you may miss mincha, which is 7 hours later. So that's the haircut. The Laila Merchatz, and you shouldn't enter into a bathhouse even this early on. L'kula milsa. You're going into a bathhouse for the full experience. You go into the bathhouse, Rashi says you have to wash your hair, you have to wash your body, and then there's the hot water and cold water, and then after that there's the schwitz. So it's a whole experience. It could be a whole day thing.
Spa.
Yeah. L'kula milsa the Merchatz, the full experience of the whole Merchatz. V'layla borsiki, a tannery. Laborsiki Gedailo, talking about a large tannery, there's a lot of hides, and there's a lot of work to be done there. You enter in there, you can get lost there easily a full day. And you shouldn't enter into a big meal, let's say a chasana, or something that's really a large meal, not stam a person is eating a lunch or something like that. And the Layla din, when it says in the Mishnah not to go into a din taita, what are we talking about? Betchilas din. To begin a din taita. You begin a din taita, dinei taita, even today, take a very long time. A din taita, when you start a din taita, it can easily take up to 4 or 5, 6 hours. So such a kind of din taita, if you're starting the din taita, you're not allowed to start even by mincha gedayla. That's one shot. Racha bar Yaakov Omar, Racha bar Yaakov is much more machmer. He says, la'olam b'tispeiras didan. Really, we're talking about a regular haircut. However, why should a person not sit down for even a regular haircut before mincha gedayla if he didn't daven mincha yet? Because maybe the scissors used for the haircut will break, and you'll be in the middle of a haircut, and you don't want to walk out into the street that way, and the barber is going to have to find some new scissors to complete the haircut, and you're going to sit there and wait for a long time, and you might miss mincha. V'loi lemerchatz, not into a bathhouse, even if you're not going for the full day, the full spa experience of the bathhouse. La zia balm is just going in and out for a schwitz, a little in and out. Lachatchila mailoi, but lachatchila you shouldn't enter into the bathhouse even for a short period, even before mincha gedayla. Why not? Gezeira shemi yisalaf or yisalfa. If the person may faint from the experience in the schwitz, he may faint and he may not end up davening mincha. V'loyla borsiki, you're not allowed to enter into a tannery, even just for an inspection. You're walking in and out just to see what's going on. Why not? Maybe he'll see some loss that he's having in the business over there, in the work that's being done, and he's going to get caught up. The inspection won't go well, and he'll see what's going on, and he's going to get caught up there in the business. And not to enter into eating even a small meal, even a lunch. Why not? Once you sit down with food, you never know where you finish. The person might continue eating. The suda may continue. And you may not enter into a din taita. Even when the din taita is holding by the conclusion, even when you're holding by giving out the final psak. Still, you may not even go into this part of the din taita even before mincha gedayla. Why not? Even when you come to the conclusion, you're holding by the psak of the din taita, you may notice that you made a mistake and you have to change the psak and you have to start all over again, and you're going to end up spending a long time in this even this part of the din taita. So those are the two terutzim of the Gemara. There's a machlekes shayna which one of these two terutzim we paskin like. According to the first teretz of the Gemara, so when it comes to mincha gedayla, there's no issue. You can eat lunch, you can take a haircut, you can do all these things, you can take a shower and everything. There's no issue whatsoever. If you're going to maybe a suda of a chasana, or if you're going to something unique and unusual, then there's an issue even with mincha gedayla. But according to the second teretz, even when it comes to mincha gedayla, starting from 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. From noon, it's already an issue to even eat lunch or any short thing because you may be nimshach. The Rosh Paskins like the second opinion, which is very, very machmer, and it's brought in Shulchan Aruch both days. But today, for the most part, we're makel when it comes to all of this, because today we have minyanim kvuim, or set times, or set places, or set minyanim that we go to for mincha, and we have reminders, someone else is reminding you, or you have b'chlal minyanim kvuim that we go to, and therefore we're much more makel. If not, so then theoretically, the mashal, Shabbos afternoon, to go to the mikveh Shabbos afternoon, Erev Shabbos, I meant, yeah, sorry, thank you. Erev Shabbos to go to the mikveh, how can you go to the mikveh? It's for sure already samuch l'mincha ketana. It's already, that's a man for sure you can't go into a merchatz. Elamai, the answer is because you have the set shul that you go to Shabbos and daven mincha, so therefore that's a heter to be allowed to do. And the same heter applies also to a meal and to all the different things that a person does, is because we have set places and set times that we daven. Okay, now the Gemara discusses another aspect of the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah said, once you began, you don't have to interrupt. What's the pshat? What is the beginning? When they began the haircut, what is that beginning? What's considered to be the beginning of the haircut? Amar Abav and Abav said, even before they began cutting the hair, once the barber places his garment, his apron sort of, on top of you to begin the haircut, that's the beginning of the haircut. When is the beginning of the bathhouse? That once you began, you don't have to interrupt. When you take off your clothing, once you remove your clothing, then even before you began a shower or the bathhouse, that's already the beginning. There is a machlekes rishayim though, because it's not clear in the Gemara. Once you removed which garment? Once you removed your yarmulke, once you removed your jacket, once you removed your undergarments, it's a machlekes rishayim. From Rashi, Rashi over here says, when you remove even just your headgear, just take off the first garment, that's already. Other rishayim say, I believe the Rambam says, only once you took off your clothing completely, even your undergarments. Right to the Mishnah says, the next case is Me'emasai Hascholas Bursaki. What's the beginning of the person getting involved in his tannery? And the answer is Mishayikshar Being Seifov. The way they would work in the tannery is they would remove their hands from the sleeves of the shirt, and then they would tie their sleeves behind their back, not to get the sleeves of their shirt dirty. So when you removed your hands from your sleeves and you tied your shirt behind your back, that's the beginning. When's the beginning of your meal? When you washed your hands for eating. Rav Chanina Amar, Rav was in Bavel, and Rav Chanina was in Eretz Yisrael. Rav Chanina said, when you untie your belt. Person has his belt and it's tied very tight, and he's going to eat. When you untie your belt, that's when you're allowed to begin eating, and you don't have to make a hefsek. Now, on this last thing, the Gemara explains, even before washing your hands, they would untie their belt. There's no argument here. Halon v'halahu. One case is talking about the people in Eretz Yisrael, and one case is talking about the people in Bavel. The people in Bavel had it customary to tie their belt very tight. So for them, it's only when they untie their belt. The people in Eretz Yisrael didn't. So therefore for them, the beginning of their meal is when they wash their hands. So the interesting thing is, Rashi and Taisus point out over here, Rav, which was in Bavel, was teaching his Talmidim that came from Eretz Yisrael, and he gave them the shir for the people of Eretz Yisrael. Rav Chanina, which was in Eretz Yisrael, was teaching his students that were from Bavel, and he gave them the shir of the people of Bavel. Because the way it worked then is, the way it is today, have a geila l'makom Torah. That everybody wants to go away from home to not be disturbed, to be able to learn Torah. So therefore, Rav Chanina is telling us the rule for Bavel, even though he's in Eretz Yisrael, and Rav is telling us the rule for the people that are from Eretz Yisrael, even though he's in Bavel. Omar Abaye, Hani Chavrim Bavloi, our friends from Bavel. Laman da'amat tfilas arvis rishos, according to the opinion that says that davening ma'ariv is a rishos, it's not a chiyuv, but it's a mitzvah, but it's not a chiyuv. Kivin deshari lehem. Once you untied your belt to eat dinner, you don't have to get up from your meal to go and daven ma'ariv, because ma'ariv is only a rishos. Ulaman, so the Gemara asks, Ulaman da'ama chayva. Does this mean that the mandama that says that it's a chayva to daven ma'ariv, matrichin alei? we do make him stand up from his meal and go daven? Didn't we just say once you open your belt, so then you started your meal, you don't have to get up? V'hatfilas mincha, tulukula al machayvi, davening mincha, everybody agrees is a chayve. Utman imis chilu mafsikin. Once you began the meal, which we just said, for the Bnei Bavel refers to opening their belt, you don't have to interrupt. Rab Chanina said that that's when you open your belt. So why is he saying that this only applies to Ma'ariv? Because Ma'ariv is a Rishus. It's even if it's a Chiyuv, still you shouldn't have to interrupt. And for the Gemara, Hasam loy shchicha shichros. When we're talking about mincha, mincha is a time where people don't drink a lot of wine to the point that they get drunk. So therefore, even if we're going to allow him to continue to eat, we're not afraid that he's going to miss mincha. However, at night, people drink more wine. People can get more intoxicated. Shchicha shichros. It's more shchiach for a person to get more intoxicated, and therefore, even if he did untie his belt, we say that if Ma'ariv would be a chayva, you should stop what you're doing and go daven Ma'ariv before you eat your meal. Yinami, another teretz, mincha, kiven de kviyah lazimne, mincha has a very clear ending of time. You can only daven until shkiyah. So therefore, mirsas, the person is more concerned about that. V'lo mifsha. He's not going to come to be negligent and not daven mincha. Arvis, however, when it comes to Ma'ariv, even the kula leili is man arvis, you can daven Ma'ariv all night. Loy mirsas, the person is not as concerned. V'asi lemifsha, he might come to be negligent and not daven Ma'ariv.